Hi there. My name is Matthew Baum, and this is my Code of Ethics presentation for technical communications. Dr. Ashley Contos is my professor. Let's begin. All right, today we're going over the overview of what we're talking about. Basically, what is the Code of Ethics? We look at the background of ethics and how it applies in this case, in this presentation. We look at our overseeing organization, NSPE, what is it and what does it do for us? We're also going to look at an example of a code of ethics, and analyze what happens behind breaking this code and the tenets that make it up. All right, background ethics. What is ethics? We take a look at ethics, we always think to ourselves that it comes from that little small place in the bottom of our stomach, the little moral gray or good or evil portion of us that helps us make our decisions. Basically, ethics is a moral philosophy, branch of philosophy that involves in recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior. Basically, this concerns matters of value, what's important to the person or society at large. And it also seeks to resolve questions of human mortality by defining concepts such as good or evil, right or wrong, virtue and vice, and justice and crime. You're probably wondering, of course, where ethics has come from. As you can see with my little philosopher here, it is been around for a long time. Names you might know of: Plato, Kant, Nietzsche, Confucius, and others. But basically, it's been around a long time and it's not going anywhere. Now, what is a code of ethics? Code of ethics basically is a core group of ethical codes that an organization can abide by, make sure that their employees or standards are adhering to them. Now, why is this so important, especially for a profession like engineering? Why is ethics a good part of our career? We move on to the National Society of Professional Engineers. This is an organization established in 1934. Basically, it had one simple goal: create an inclusive, non-technical organization dedicated to the interests of licensed professional engineers. Basically, it's going to protect engineers and the public from any unqualified practitioners, basically build a set standards and stand against unethical practices and inadequate compensation. Now, you can see the vision and the mission statement as well as this lovely infographic over here. Basically, it's a guiding ethical standard of engineers at large. Now, why is this so important in the long runs? As you can see, there's a fundamental canons of the NSPE, and we have a picture of a canons here. Terrible joke, I know, but it works. Engineering is a very important profession. As members of this profession, we need to exhibit the highest standards of honesty and integrity. If we don't have that, how can the public trust what we put out there to the world? So some of the main core canons, joke again, pun intended, of NSPE, as you can see on the screen. And these are pretty common sense canons that hold safety and welfare of the public, performing duties as faithful agents, avoiding any deceptive acts, and etc. One of the main ones we're going to focus on today is rules of practice that engineers shall hold in paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. I believe this is the most important because, again, we are the constructors of our age, and the public needs to have trust that we're going to do this to a set rule of standards. Now, why is this important? I mean, you have things like not reporting safety concerns, have public issues with that, sharing trade secrets without consent, acting negligently to the employer at large, and engage in unlawful practices that hurts our brand as an engineer the most. But how can this happen in real life? Let's take a look at an example. So example, what if you're an environmental engineer and you're hired to basically test regulatory and environmental practices for a certain plastics plant? Of course, you're going to monitor the plant itself and as well as the surrounding wildlife. And the employer has hired you on as more of a beneficial arrangement, not necessarily involving your firm, but you as just a private contractor. Oh no, toxic waste. You found that in the river. And what do? Where do you go? What's the dilemma? Are you going to hush up like the company has asked you to and take a large cash payment? Or are you going to report this to the adequate board? Say if you decided not to, and that you decided to take the hush payment because it does your bank account better than being a good upstanding engineer. Here are the codes that we violated outside of the scope of practice. Basically, we can't be using our name or associate with any business ventures that are engaged in fraudulent and dishonest enterprise. This company was dumping toxic waste into the water, into the surrounding wildlife. That's dishonest. We're not going to engage or abet by any practices by this firm, which is what we shouldn't be doing in this. And finally, if we have knowledge of violations of code, we need to report this. We need to report this to the relevant bodies because we need to set a standard out there in society. Thank you for the talk.